I had a lot going on. But you're like running like AI companies, dropping tracks with Lil Jon. Are you still doing crypto stuff? Are you still running your crypto company?
I think people get it twisted that it's like crypto based or whatever. Like I never, me personally, I never got into like the trading of the NFTs or the crypto shit. Me personally was just more on like the blockchain side of things and just that tech. So that what I'm doing with all this AI stuff kind of evolved into from that. And it was never like, me personally, it was never about the money or the how much money can you make and all that stuff. It was just like, there's some cool tech out here. How can we use this tech to build on top of it?
Yeah, last time we met, I think it was like 2021-ish. Feels like forever ago, dude. That's weird.
Yeah.
You like launched like a vape with an NFT tied to it. Yeah. Like that was pretty wild. Yeah, man. We missed you in Pasadena. I was hoping that you could join us for the event. That was so fun.
I want to come out. Also, I know that you don't do all of them, but if there's anything cool that you hear of, let me know too out there. I'd love to pull up. For sure.
Have you been there? Have you been to the headquarters? Okay.
Yeah, I've been a few times. And last time I went was when you were launching the new push, like the preview before that happened. It was cool.
Nice.
That was like a really...
Yeah, they're doing way more events there now. A lot of it's like more, I wouldn't say like closed, but like they'll reach out to like Laura Escade just did her master track, and it's like a paid kind of like week-long course thing. But I would like to do it again this year, and they extended the invite. So if that's the case and it works out with your tour schedule, you should definitely come out. It'd be fun.
I would love to, man. Seriously. I'd love to line it up.
Got super nerdy. Like Chuck Sutton was like showing these Ableton racks that I didn't even think was possible to build, and like honestly lost me halfway through his presentation, but it was sick.
I love that.
It was a good nerd fest. This is your episode. You just dropped a track, your newest track. Speaking of Flosstradamus stuff with Lil Jon, I Don't Give a Fuck. I think that's what it was called.
Yeah.
It went hard.
Yeah, dude. I can talk about it a little bit too.
Yeah. Was that music video real? There's like cop cars driving AI. Through fire.
100% AI.
Okay.
So I made that whole video, man. It was like backing it up to that track. It was cool. So this year is my 20-year anniversary. I've been doing Flosstradamus. So it's been crazy.
Congrats, man.
Thank you, bro. Like I'm old, but
nah.
The one thing that's always been a staple in Flosstradamus music is Lil Jon. Like one of the biggest mashups we ever did back when we first started in like 2005 was a mashup of Sandstorm mixed with Lil Jon. Yes. What was the song called? It was him and 3-6 Mafia. Act a Fool was the song. And so we mashed that up. That was like one of the biggest moments of Flosstradamus. And then one of the other moments we had, we actually got Lil Jon on a song called Prison Riot. It was like one of our bigger like songs in the trap world. And then him and I were just talking. I've been helping Lil Jon out with a bunch of AI stuff. And I was like, yo, like, let's make another song. It's my 20-year anniversary. And so what we kind of went together, we're like, all right, let's make the old like crunk Lil Jon sound, like the old like crunk synths, that type of thing. And then also do like the old Flosstradamus sound, like kind of like the old school trap sound, and like blend those two together. And that's kind of what we did for the song.
Nice.
Took kind of like our old sounds and mashed them up, and then also put like a little speed house part in it to kind of bring it into 2025.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I dig it. I could hear that too. The influence of like the old kind of styles mashed together.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's funny because I don't know, there's like a lot of like Reddit trap forums and things like that where like it's all like super sound designy and what's the next weirdest drop and stuff like that. And I was chasing that for a while, and I just kind of wanted to go back to like not chasing that. You can get lost in the sauce when you try to get weirder and weirder and weirder sometimes. But anyway, this one we just wanted to keep it simple, keep it for the clubs.
No, that's tight. I would also love to dive into AI stuff. Like that stuff's so fascinating to me. And I know that you are really into it. I mean, you've got your company Rubin, which is kind of an umbrella to multiple tools and platforms. Yeah. Shout out. Got the t-shirt. What made you start Rubin? What was like kind of your entry point into all that?
Yeah, man. So like we even started this out with talking about Ableton racks and stuff like that. I'm always just digging the internet for like nerd tools to make my production workflow smoother, or even just do things that I can't do. Like, I don't know, like there's weird, I'm sure you're finding them too. There's just all these cool tools out there that can make us maybe to find a new sound and things like that. And one of the places to do that is this website called GitHub. It's kind of like the Max for Live. Just to kind of relate it to the people that might be listening, like Max for Live has like the separate website where you can find all the cool Max for Live plugins. GitHub is kind of that for all sorts of code. So like I go onto GitHub, and there's another one called Hugging Face where you can kind of run some of that code. But what it is just a website full of all these code bases, and you can find plugins on there. You can find just random little blocks of code and then implement them into other things. And it's just kind of a cool way of building. And in 2022, or maybe like right after you and I first had talked, I was like just digging around on there, and I found this voice cloning software called Diff Singer, or like code base called Diff Singer. That it was the My Little Pony community that exists on 4chan. It was their like community project that they all came together and like built this code base where you could clone your voice for My Little Pony, but they put it out there, and you can just put any set of wave files in there and clone a voice or an instrument. And so my friends and I, like, we ran it. We're like, let's just try it. We like threw in some like weird little acapellas, Ariana Grande and stuff like that. And we're able to like get a voice clone. And then we showed it to Diplo. He wanted to like do a voice clone of Justin Bieber. So then we took one of his demos he had and put Bieber's voice on it. And then we just started like showing it to our friends, and it's a pretty long process, but like to be able to run this stuff, you kind of either need a fast computer or this thing called Google Collab. You have to, it was like a lot of hard steps to like really make this happen. So then we just built this thing called Replay, which is it's actually a free app you can get. And anyone listening, if you go to tryreplay.io, that's like it's a free app that you can just do voice cloning, and you don't need to know code. You don't need to know anything. You just drag your vocal wave in there and pick the model and clone it to whatever you want. It can be fake Drake, or it can be a model you create. So yeah, that was that.
That's
and
wild.
Then one last thing, and then we can go from there. But we made Replay, and then we started realizing people were making models like crazy using Replay. And we needed a place to put those. They were kind of on Discords, and they were all over the internet. So we created this website called weights.gg, and you just put all the models there, and you can download models, share your models. Like, it's kind of a community for voice models. And that website has since evolved. I can talk about later as well. But yeah.
No, it's pretty sick. I was actually playing with it last night and messing around with it with my girlfriend. Like I cloned my voice. I made a model of my voice, which was really weird because I uploaded like just me talking for like an hour from the podcast.
Oh, perfect.
But then I realized it's like for singing, right? Mm-hmm. And so it took my voice that was just talking and it made it into like a singing voice. And I started singing along with it, and it was like strangely accurate. And I was like, how did it pull my singing voice from my talking voice? Like, that was pretty crazy. That was nuts.
Yeah. I would suggest, like, to make it a little bit more dynamic, probably sing, because then it doesn't have to almost like hallucinate that data there. Because I'm assuming your talking voice is pretty monotone.
Yeah.
But yeah, the technology, like, it gets almost like a fingerprint of your voice, if that's a way of like describing it. It understands like the shape of the words you say and the timbre, all of that. It like kind of has that in like a data set. And then I don't know what'd you put as like the carrier, like to put your voice clone over. What was the audio?
What song was it? I think it was like an Aloe Black Carry You Home or something like that. Cool. Something random I found on my hard drive.
No, that's perfect, man. Because that's what it does. It takes your like vocal fingerprint and almost like wraps it over the carrier vocal, the Aloe Black one in this case.
And you could change the lyrics too to an existing song, because I used that same song, and I ended up I used a song, Throw Some D's on it. and then I changed it to Throw Some Cheese on it. Just bought a Big Mac, and it was like I changed and it was actually hilarious. It was pretty good.
You did that in like the song section of Replay?
Yeah, that was dope. Exactly. Yeah.
Yes, dude. Okay, so we just launched that like a week ago.
Okay.
So it's brand new, and yeah, that was the thing. Before, Replay was just voice cloning, so you could only put acapella and then wrap your voice around the acapella. And then now we started adding things, where you can do text, like input text, and variate the song generations, and I can talk about that feature of the app too, whenever. But
for sure, there's a lot of features in here, man. You've got the image to video generation, which I think was actually the most impressive to me, and I'm sure there's a lot of factors depending on the content you're using, but that was insane. I uploaded a new album art image that I'm going to release in like a couple weeks, and it generated was like a 6 or 7 seconds or something.
Dude,
And
yep.
it was insanely accurate.
Yep.
Like, it looked real. I was like,
Dude.
holy shit. This is like, and I've played around with Sora and I've
Yep.
played around with other ones, but this nailed it. It was
Yep.
weird.
Dude, thank you for saying that. And that's exactly what we're hoping for. And I want people that are listening to, you know, maybe you're adverse to the music side of AI. It's scary. It might take your job, all of that, which we can go into later on in this podcast.
Yeah.
But the one thing I do want to say to the people listening is maybe you don't want to touch AI music. That's cool. With what we have on Weights GG, you can build your whole brand kit out. You can do live show visuals. Like a friend of mine actually used our image generator. How it works in Weights is you can generate an image, which is the first frame of a video pretty much. You can generate that image and then you can then turn that into a video. And now you can have live show video content that comes from this. Or like you did, just take an image you have and upload it and then make a video of that. So there's a lot of cool things with AI we can talk about and how you can actually like expand your brand as a musician. I think there's a lot of really cool tools out there aside from the ones we built, but the ones that we built are hopefully to help your creativity get expanded and do like really cool things with what's out there. Even if you don't touch the music side of it, you can still do really cool things to help your brand get bigger with AI.
Yeah. So with Weights or Replay, is this kind of like a white label of OpenAI or another like AI source? Like, what are you guys using on the back end? I'm curious.
We're using all sorts of things. Like,
okay.
So just to nerd out for 1 second, what a weight is a model, pretty much an AI model. So with ChatGPT, there's one model that runs, depending on which version you use, there's a model on the back end that is a weight. And pretty much that's just a bunch of data that gets heavy. So it's a weight that has all of the information about something, text, things like that. So on Replay, on Weights, what we did is we're trying to make it a hub for all of the creative weights that are out there. So you can have the voice cloning weights. We use a thing called RVC currently, but things adapt. Maybe there'll be a better one soon. But our backend for like the voice cloning is RVC. We have a bunch of different weights for the song generation. We have a different weight for the video. On the image side of things, we use Flux, which is kind of like the most popular one right now. And then you can also create your own weights. Like, so for the voice cloning, you can create your own RVC model, which is a weight of your voice. And you can also, for the Flux image generation, you can create a LoRa, which is a weight. It's the same kind of name. Sorry if I'm going too technical, but
no, this is good.
You could upload, just like your voice cloning, you can upload X amount of minutes and create a voice model. For the image side of things, you can upload like 20 images of your face, and now you have a image model of your face. Or let's say you like 1980s airbrush art and you want to make your album artwork of that, you can upload like 20 images of 1980s airbrush art, and now you have like a style, a weight of that style to create more images on. So that's kind of how all of this works. And we're going to very soon have weights for songs. That's kind of the next phase. Like, so if you think about that, you could probably upload all the demos you've ever made or whatever you have and create a model of your sound, and then you can generate music in your style is kind of the next phase of what we're trying to do soon.
So when you say generate music in your style, are these like individual loops? Is like a fully composed song? It's like 3 minutes. Like, does that mean? What is your dream or vision for that?
Yeah, I think probably people listening have their own versions of that dream too. And I think like kind of taking it back to the images, like, so currently with LoRa's or whatever, and a weight that you would do for images, you can have like your face. So it would generate just your face, or you can have a style, which is like the 80s airbrush thing I said. So it's like you can almost, with images, you can kind of pick between the two or blend the two, which is actually cool. You could have a photo of me that's in 1980s airbrush style. So you can actually like blend those. So my future for music would be a variation of that. So let's say I loaded all of my demos I've ever made. So that's a style. And then let's say I have a bunch of dubstep loops from like 2006 Rusko style. So now I can take my Rusko weight that I make and the Flosstradamus weight I make, and then blend those together. And then now I can make like what would Flosstradamus sound like in 2005 Rusko dubstep wubs, if that makes sense.
Okay.
It's kind of my goal of what this can be. Or whatever else. You can turn it into like, what would Flosstradamus sound like as a ragtime band in the 80s, or I don't know. You can like, just like the dreaming can get so much more expansive in this space, which I'm excited for.
Yeah, I'd have to say like most of the song generation tools and platforms I played with, which I'm sure you played with way more than I have, but the audio quality is not quite there yet.
Yeah.
Like it's good as far as like a compositional point. Like it comes up with the cool ideas, but like the actual quality and fidelity is just not good.
Yeah. It's getting better though. I think.
Yeah.
It sounds like you've followed Sora. You're kind of in this space a little bit. So
A little bit.
I think a way to look at a lot of this stuff, I think almost like LLMs were the electricity for the light bulb to be invented. And what I mean by that is like LLMs are like ChatGPT. Those are like the text-based things. A lot of these companies base their things on what LLMs built. LLMs could walk or whatever, so like image generation could run. And so when image generation was kind of the second thing, it was a little bit easier to train a data set on just a bunch of images. So like that was kind of the next step of this. And when images first started getting generated, I'm sure people have seen like hands had 7 fingers. It was trying to understand like what humans look like, and then things just got better. And then what is a movie? It's just a bunch of images together. So I think the next step was video. That actually got perfected pretty quickly. Music has kind of been the last in this space. So like the first like music gens sounded like a ringtone, like a very low quality. They're distorted and you could only generate a few seconds because a 3-minute song of data takes a lot of understanding. But now they're getting better and better. So even at Suno, we're able to generate like a pretty long song now, and we just updated our model to a V4 a few months back, and even that is sounding better too now. And we have like a remaster algorithm. So what I'm trying to say is all of this stuff is just going to get better and better and better, and the fidelity, like you said, can get improved. And the cool thing about us is we're mixing engineers, or we at least know the mixing side of things. There's ways to upscale that stuff to make it actually sound a little bit better in post.
Yeah, that's so cool, man. Like I'm sure a lot of people in this podcast have been thinking this, and I've even talked to several people, even from Ableton and other guests on the podcast about, how do I say this? Like, what are the ethical considerations around AI and music as far as, are people going to be less creative? Is it making us lazy as like producers or artists? Like, what is your opinion when you hear thoughts like that?
I mean, everyone can have their own thought and their own perspective. I think for me as a person who I am, I try not to judge anything unless I get some sort of experience. So I really need to dive in and understand something. So if it's my friend who might be a religion that I don't know about, I'll try to understand the religion, understand their perspective. If they're Republican, let me understand it. If they're Democrat, that's just me. That's what I do. I try to come from a place of understanding where they're coming from. It's funny that our website's called Weights because it's data set. Like there's these data sets of understanding something. And I try to approach everything that way. And I know it sounds pretty nerdy, but like, let me get a data set on this before I make an opinion. And so to go to your point with the music side of things, like at first it was weird. It was like kind of, oh no, this might be trained on my data, all of these things. But then once I finally like really dove in and understood, I don't think it's actually taking away. I think it's adding to, personally. And I have been able to, me personally, I have a ton of ideas in my head. I have 80s funk ideas or disco house ideas or like a soul sample idea that's in my head of what I want to make a hip hop beat out of. And I'll turn to like a Suno, let's say, and generate this 1970s soul sample. And then I'll take that into Ableton and I'll add my own drums over the top and stuff. So for me, it's actually expanded my creativity, because before, if I wanted to make that said soul sample, I would have to load up a contact library, figure out what instruments, start to like really build out that sample. And that's cool. That's a process. That's great. But for me to get my idea out of my head, I can go to something like Suno, get there a lot quicker, stay in a flow state, and then just continue on and produce it out the way I want to produce it.
Yeah, no, that's a good perspective. I have a very similar perspective as you. I think my feeling is whenever there's new tech that comes along, it's always an opportunity for people to expand their creativity and to use and abuse it to their advantage.
Ooh.
You look at like techno, how like techno music was really a lot of it, like that big kick drum 4 on the floor, it came from like people just clipping the shit out of mixers.
Yep.
And then they're like, oh, what's that sound? Like it was kind of almost an accident. And they just started smashing kick drums through mixers and clipping them and analog. And then that kind of birthed that genre. Like for me, I see AI as just another tool for people to get creative and weird with, not just relying on it for everything, but using it as a tool in their toolbox
100%
to like expand creativity and do something new and different. It's like plugins. Like when plugins first started coming on, it wasn't like great. Like the early plugins first released by like Steinberg, right? was
Yeah.
like garbage. Like some of them were not good at all. And then now like plugins, people rely on it for everything and they're using it to get more creative and making new sounds. I think AI is kind of the same concept.
Bro, 100%. I love that you said that, man. I think that's everything. Like when a drum machine came along, it was meant to like, okay, well, you don't need a drummer, but it didn't sound like a drummer. It sounded like crap. But then like house music was birthed out of that and all of these other genres. And even distorting a guitar, like in early rock or whatever, it's like, oh, that's bad. It's distorted. But then like all of these rock genres came from that too. So like heavy metal is part of that. So to your question of this, the low quality and some of these Gen AI things, I think that actually has its own character too. It might actually help create a little bit of sauce in there somehow.
Yeah, dude, give me all the sauce. I'm into it.
Yo, just wanted to let you know Baby Audio is supporting this podcast episode. They make unique instrument and effect plugins that focus on inspiration and creativity, from 80s inspired lo-fi to super VHS to cutting edge modern vocal effect plugins like Humanoid. Check out Baby Audio Plugins. Their latest release, Transit 2, was developed in collaboration with Andrew Wong, who was on the podcast back in the day, shout out. And his plugin is a simple and fun way to make song transitions. So check out Baby Audio and all the different tools that they offer. Also, you could save 15% off of any order with the code AMP15. I personally like their tape plugin. I think it sounds pretty sick. So check out the link in the show notes. Go save some money and browse Baby Audio's plugins.
What are some like saucy ways you've been using AI for your music production specifically that you think could be helpful for other people to know or learn about or try?
Yeah, man, I would say my number one most wowing way of doing it, of using it, is Suno. We have a covers feature on Suno where you can just like hum a melody. You could sing lyrics into your phone. I have a pretty monotone voice. I cannot sing. But for me, I'll just like turn it on my iPhone and just sing an idea into my phone, use the covers mode, and then generate what genre is in my mind. And it gives it back to me almost exactly like in my mind. It might take 20 generations, but the one thing that was in my mind will come out from just sketching a voice note into my phone. And I might stem separate that acapella out, and I can explain to the people how to actually get high quality acapellas from Suno, but maybe I'll take that acapella and put it in one of my songs, or it just like helps me get the idea out. And so I have it as a reference that I could then put into Ableton and then build my track around. So I think people haven't tried the cover side of what Suno is to really understand the power of it. It's like the ultimate. I'm sure so many people have recorded voice notes into their phone just to get an idea out. This takes it and it fully fleshes out your idea to a point where it's like, it feels as real as it is in your mind without having to touch a DAW.
That's sick. Is it also generating new lyrics for you or just replicating what you already said or are like typing or whatever?
Yeah. So let's say I only did 4 bars of lyrics, let's say, that I have it, that I like thought of. Maybe I have a lyric idea and I could say those. It will actually take the words that I say and replicate those. But let's say a day later, I'm like, you know what? I have an extra 4 bars. I can just go in and type those in. And now I can actually expand using my initial melody and my lyrics to expand the extra 4 bars if I want in that song. Or if I want to change those too. Let's say the lyrics I said were just corny. They're just like mumble lyrics or whatever. I could actually change those lyrics as well and have a version of the song that actually fits the lyrics that I've thought of later on.
That's really cool. How would you compare that to maybe using something like Ace Studio? I'm sure you've heard or seen it. It's like all over Instagram right now.
Yeah, man. I would say it's a very similar process. The cool thing about Ace is it has like the MIDI note control, which is really cool. Suno is pretty much just throw paint at the wall. That's just how they built it. They want to make it as user-friendly as possible. But Ace, you can actually like dial it even more. So yeah, you could type in, this MIDI note says, I don't know, cool or whatever. You can type in cool and it'll change that. And then if you wanted it to be E flat instead of E, you can move it, which is really cool.
Nice.
And then light self-promotion on our end is like, you could use Ace Studio to generate that acapella, and then you can bring it over to Replay, the app we made, and then pick your voice that you want that to be consistent with. So you could actually just export that acapella out of Ace, throw it into Replay, and blend a Drake and Rick Ross model to like be the voice for that if you need to.
Yeah, no, I love that. And like, I love doing a lot of vocal based rap, like chopped up sample kind of stuff. And I don't know personally, I'm curious, like, what are the rights and royalties and the licensing and everything behind using somebody else's voice right now? Because I know that's kind of a weird, tricky subject. There's been lawsuits and stuff like pop singers. Like, what are your thoughts on that? How does that work?
Yeah. The current legalities around like voice, using someone's voice, like, yeah, you could go on Waits and get the Drake model and make it sound like Drake on the song and all of that. And if you try to upload it to Spotify, say Flosstradamus featuring Drake, it's going to get flagged. It's not going to get approved. Like, that's just how DSPs work. I mean, you can maybe put it on YouTube before it gets taken down. Like, all of those things will probably get flagged. But if you use that voice model and don't say it's a person, because you're essentially, when you're uploading to a DSP and labeling it as Drake, let's say, it's you're dealing with rev splits, royalties, all of that type of stuff. But if you just have a song that sounds similar to Drake and put it out there, it probably won't get flagged as much. I would still say don't do that if you want. Like, if you're really trying to put a song out legitly, like, there's so many ways to mask that and blend with other voice models and things like that. But at the end of the day, you're just trying to take their likeness to like up your project. So I don't know. Try other ways to do that. There's so many on Waits. We have over 200,000 voice models. There's ways to, like, you don't even need to use the Drake one if you don't want to. But if you're trying to make like a Drake edit or something and you want him to say your DJ name, like, I don't know, go ahead and do that. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess if you get like millions of streams, then maybe the major labels will want to cut. But other than that, people probably won't care.
Yeah, man. And aside from the Drake side of things, if you get 1 million streams, that's a great thing. It means you made a great song at the end of the day. Like, if you have a trash song with a Drake thing on it, like, I don't know if it's going to get 1 million streams, but yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I know there was like an issue on Spotify with people just like using AI to generate noise. And then they were uploading noise to like, you know, people listening when they go to bed or whatever, just having some background noise music, and they were getting like streams off of it and like payouts and royalties. Yeah. Apparently like Spotify was pissed off about that and like trying to crack down on people.
Yeah, man. These people exist, AI or not. There's people that are going to game the system. This is the tale as old as time. Like, I think that AI is the current villain, and it's easy to generate a bunch of songs and upload them. And Spotify, I think last week or this week, I saw a news article recently about how they are stopping it. So if you just generate it on Suno and spam the service, they're stopping that. There's like a law in place for that. And the current law is if you make anything from any Gen AI platform, video, any of that stuff, it still has to be edited by humans. It has to be variated by humans. And I don't know. I think if you're just input output on any of these Gen AI platforms, if you're like, make me a whatever song and you get it out, it's still kind of corny. It sounds kind of stock. I don't know. I would say we're all producers and probably listening to this podcast. Like, you can take that and tweak it and make it better, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. The originality is something people still crave. They still want that.
Yeah, man.
And everything's just trained off of something that already exists. So like, why not make something new? And I think that'll make it stand out, at least for a while, until the stuff gets really, really crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as far as Ableton Live, obviously Ableton Podcast, are there any AI features that you think would be really sick in Ableton, or you could foresee being used in a DAW that like would be really valuable for people?
So there was a service that's currently down. I kind of know why it's down, but there's this website called Wavetool. It goes by Wavetool, but it's WAVTOOL. It's taken down. It's about to be back up soon. But the cool thing about Wavetool was almost like it was a way you could see what the futures of DAWs would be. And the things I really liked about it, which I think are going to be applied to Ableton soon, this is my prediction for the next 2 years of us doing a podcast, but someone's either going to make a plugin that does a lot of this stuff, a Max for Live device, or Ableton will integrate it. But one of the things I liked about Wavetool is this was an early primitive version, but they had an LLM baked into the DAW. Let's say I have one kick drum on my beat one. I could just say whatever like my kick drum track is, like take kick 2 and repeat it for 16 bars at quarter notes. It would just take that kick and paste it for 16 bars. And then I could be like, you know what, make that kick type. This is all texting, typing it in. Type in, you know what, make the kick drum pattern more of like a Jersey club kick pattern. And then that 4/4 kick that I pasted for the 16 bars now is those kick drums are now in a Jersey club section. Or I could say from I don't know, bar 32 to bar 65. I don't know, I'm making numbers up. make that more of a halftime trap kick drum pattern. And then I could type that in, and those kick drums are going to change on the timeline. The same for MIDI. Let's say I said, make a simple chord progression in E minor, 4-note chord progression, whatever, or 4-bar chord progression. It would do the simple E minor chord progression. And let's say I liked it. And I'm like, you know what? It needs to be more like 90s house. I could type that in, and those MIDI notes now would be chopped up and changed in more of a 90s house variation. And they had other tools in there that were all AI based that you could actually like click and give yourself variations of those MIDI notes. And there's a lot of plugins out there. There's Max for Live devices that do a lot of this stuff. But what my prediction is there's going to be a variation of that combination of like a chat into the DAW mixed with a lot of what these Max for Live devices are doing. And I think they're all going to talk to each other, and we're going to be able to do a lot of what Ableton's 12 has in it, where you can vary the chords and stuff like that. But I think we'll be actually communicating with the DAW via text a little bit more than we think is my future prediction of this stuff.
Yeah, that's crazy to think about. Was WaveTool actually generating sounds with text, or was it just the compositional creation side of it?
At the time, it wasn't generating, but in the future, it's going to generate.
That's I could see that for sure. That's knuckin' futz, man.
Yeah,
that's
dude,
wild.
and that's
M2TM is a Max for Live developer, and we've been like emailing back and forth. I think he's from like, I want to say Germany. Sorry, dude, if you're not. I thought you're from Germany, but he created kind of like a text-based Max for Live thing. It's called M2TM chords. You can just type in the chords, and then it'll generate chord progressions for you in the MIDI clip.
Oh, sick. Yeah, I've seen
MIDI
this.
tool.
Yes.
It's a MIDI tool. Yeah. That thing's really cool. He's made a lot of other really sick MIDI tools, but I know like one big thing for Live 12 that a lot of people don't realize is like Max for Live is quote unquote like more open sourced, for lack of a better way to put it, where you can do a lot more hacking inside of Live, like the MIDI clips, like the back end of stuff that wasn't possible before. So I could see that just being a gateway for more AI kind of stuff to creep in later.
And there's like, for the high level nerds listening to this podcast, there's things like Cursor, which is a coding. It's a free, or it's like, it is free, but you can pay for Pro. But Cursor is a coding app that uses LLMs. So you can actually say, I've actually created plugins with it. It's the craziest thing.
Really?
Dude, it's like the craziest. So there's Cursor, and there's another one called Windsurf, and I've used both of those. But what it does is there's an agent mode. You click on agent mode, and you can be like, I need to make a VST plugin that does saturation with a dry wet knob. I'm being very simple. And then it'll code the entire plugin. It will put it in your plugin directory, and you just open up Ableton and your plugin is there. It's the craziest stuff.
That's insane.
What I'm predicting as well on the nerds here listening is you can actually use Cursor to code Max for Live plugins. You can code all these different things, but there's going to be a thing where people are using these tools like Cursor and things like that to actually build tools for Ableton using Max for Live. Like you said, it's so more open source that people are going to be building using Cursor and Windsurf and things like that.
Yeah, that's wild, man. I was playing a little bit with like generating some like Python scripts using ChatGPT.
Yeah.
It's getting really good. I'll have to check this Cursor thing out because that seems like a way easier route.
Bro, check it out. And what Cursor uses is you can pick all of the different LLMs you want. So you can be like, let's code with Claude or code with DeepSeek or GPT or whatever. And what it does is how Cursor works is it codes. If there's any errors, it fixes those. So it's kind of, you'll watch it. It'll start coding and then there'll be errors. It'll be fixing it. And it's doing everything for you. So you don't have to like copy paste between GPT and then go over to your code editor and it's making files. So cool. It's doing everything for you. And that's just going to get better and better. And it's going to implement code bases like what Max for Live has. And it has Juice built into, that's how I built these plugins. It has Juice built into it. It goes to the Juice repository, downloads all the assets, puts them in folders, like all of the stuff you'd have to do manually. It's all just doing it for you. And
that's amazing.
And so I'm excited for this like next level of like people who, because all of us musicians, we always want plugins. We want these things, but we don't have the time to like learn how to code and things like that. And so it's going to be, I think there's going to be a market for like a lot of cool tools coming out here soon in the next few years because it's just so much easier to make now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I keep hearing more artists who are wanting to like develop their own plugins and release them and sell them. So that could even be like another easy hack just to generate your own plugins faster on your own.
Yeah, man. And a lot of times we're building things that we want. We're the ones in the streets using these things and we want these things. So we're going to build them for ourselves. And if others people can get benefits from that, then sell it. Sell it on Gumroad or whatever.
Yeah, I've been hitting up people like the last couple of years, just being like, hey, let's make a Max Fly for this problem I'm having. And it would be awesome not to have to learn how to do all that myself and just have AI do it for me.
Dude, exactly. And for the listeners out there, I'm sure you save notes, but like save those ideas that you have now. Like maybe we're not there today, like you can just fully generate it, but like save those notes because probably within a year, you can make your ideas come to life with these tools, which is going to be crazy.
Dude, that's so cool, man. I love that.
Yeah.
Beyond Rubin or Weights or Cursor, you talked about a bunch of these different tools. Are there any other tech companies or tools that you find interesting worth shouting out?
Yeah. So this was back in the blockchain stuff, kind of taking it back a little bit. One of the things I wanted to do with blockchain was make it so there'd be a loop cloud. I don't know if you ever use loop cloud, but like loop cloud or Splice that is peer-to-peer. So like Splice is pretty like gated. It's like you have to be a known person to sell a pack on there or a known company. Loop cloud seems to make it so it is just like companies, which is cool. It's a marketplace for samples like that, but it's hard to find a peer-to-peer sample sale company. And so we actually built it. We built this thing where you can be a kid in Idaho who's like really good at playing keys and you have road samples you want to upload. I teamed up with this company called Soundware and we made this thing called Soundbank. So if you go to soundbank.us, we seriously launched it last week. So we're building it all out. But what Soundbank is anyone can upload their samples on this. And we have it. So Soundbank is just a plugin you run in Ableton. So let's say I'm searching for roads, like I said in my session. I can now go through all of the user uploaded content as well as sample packs as well. But I can find the roads that I want. And if I click on it, I can purchase that. And let's say this kid in Idaho who made those roads, he now can get paid for the roads I use in my session. It syncs up in key in time with Ableton. So let's say I'm in E minor and this kid made this in D. It doesn't matter. It'll instantly transpose it. And as soon as I click it and drag it into Ableton, this kid in Idaho is getting paid. And this is kind of what we wanted to do forever is like make it so people can now get money. And what we're also doing in the back end, we teamed up with Beat Club as well. And we're going to have ASCAP and BMI royalty splits baked into this soon too. So that kid in Idaho now might be featured on a Metro Boomin song that whatever, like the Migos are on or something, like is the final North Star of this. We're empowering all these like people who are just like out here making loops or ideas or elements, or maybe you're good at didgeridoo and you make a didgeridoo pack and it gets put in a song. Like there's all these cool options for that. And it's peer-to-peer, it's real time, it's baked in the DAW. You don't have to leave it all. It's just all this instant.
Dude, this is like such an essential tool that we've needed for a while. Like, because in the last week, man, I've talked to two really talented producer friends of mine who have been trying to get a hold of Splice to do a sound pack or like release the sound pack they've already finished. They're just sitting on it. This makes so much sense. Like, why hasn't this been a thing already?
Dude, we've been trying to build it, man. The dudes at Soundware are so cool, man. And like, we finally got, it's kind of cool that we did it right before this podcast, but we launched it last week. It's still kind of beta, it's still clunky, but we're going to hopefully have a North Star where anyone can get money on music and creating music, whatever it is.
So when you said it automatically syncs up to key, do you have to set the key or can it just be baked into scale awareness in the project?
As of right now with the Ableton scale awareness, I don't think it's that. It's all VST based. Maybe there's a way to link it, but no, you just set it. You just set it. Like, so, I mean, it's just 2 clicks, I guess. You'll do E minor. But then the cool thing is every single sample in there you browse is in E minor. So like you're just going through it all. And it's like, whether it's a company that made the sample pack or it's that kid who made it, they're all in key. And we're also adding other cool things too. So there's even like private packs you can send around. So a lot of these beat producers, they make these loop packs that they give to Metro Boomin and stuff like that. We're going to make it so it's like, okay, well, Metro Boomin is like, yo, send me a pack. You can actually send him a link to your sound bank that won't be public, but he will get the exclusive samples as well. And so we're trying to make it so it's like really good for producers who can like share loops too. Let's say you and I have a project or whatever. I can make a specific sound bank just to give to you to work on our collab, which is kind of cool too.
That's awesome. So do you, from like a user standpoint, are you purchasing credits and then you're just purchasing like individual samples from other producers or okay.
Yeah, we're doing the credit system for this too. And we're having it so the user can say how many credits their sample is. Let's say they want to charge $100 for one loop or whatever. They could if they wanted to, and it'll be X amount of credits. But yeah, we're just finding the credit system to be kind of where a lot of people are going with this stuff. And I don't know, it's like Fortnite V-Bucks or whatever. It's like, it kind of equates to X amount of dollars. It's just through this like credit system.
Okay, sweet. So you set your own price as the seller of your samples.
Yep.
And then Soundbank just takes like a small cut of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. You got to keep the lights on. That's cool, man. That's a really cool idea. I just downloaded it while you were talking, so I'm looking forward to playing with that later today.
Yeah, please. Also send me feedback. Like we're still kind of in that early stage of like making it better. So
absolutely, dude. I'd be happy to give you feedback, tell you what sucks.
Yeah,
or what's awesome.
Yeah, no, please, man. And it's funny because we wanted to do it on blockchain initially, but then just realized it's so much easier to do things without blockchain. Like blockchain was a lot of promise, but I just think it was it's too much to like deal with it. So, and eventually it might get there once the tech gets there. But as of right now, it's just, we're using old school ways.
Any other devices or tools that you find interesting?
I'm trying to think of like next level things or some cool stuff that's out there.
One tool I've been finding that's not next level, it's super basic, is just Google's NotebookLM for me being organized.
Bro.
Just as like a business entrepreneurial type of person, like that's been a game changer for me, man. It's just like, just copy and paste a YouTube video or like any link or text and just organize all of it. You can ask it any question you want. I did that to learn the push 3. I uploaded the push 3 manual, and as I was going through, I get stuck. I just ask it a question, boom, tell me what to do, how to do it.
2 other NotebookLM hacks I love. One is you can, if you're a digital hoarder like me, you can like upload text messages and communications. I went through a breakup a while ago, and I actually took like the last 3 months of that breakup and uploaded the texts of that in there. And it was very like psychedelic to see the type of person I was at the time, to see my communication style. And then also just like understand that, like to take a bird's eye view of like that breakup and like really grow from it. And the other thing that NotebookLM has, I don't know if you tried the podcast feature of it, but have you tried that? Yeah. Okay. That's the cool thing. That's what I'm talking about with this. Like what NotebookLM can do for the people to understand is that it can take text, anything you put in, like I said, text messages, links, YouTubes, whatever, and it creates a podcast, but you can also interact with that podcast. So I was interacting, asking questions about the 2 people in said breakup, which was me and my ex, and it was like giving me feedback and communication styles and like how this person was looking for love and this and that. And it was very cool, very therapeutic. NotebookLM is really cool for that. Another one I did actually, as I took this is actually really cool too for the other people listening, but Ableton made a book called Electronic something 74.
74 Creative Strategies for Electronic Music Production. Yeah.
So what I did is I took the PDF of that book that's out there, find it however you guys can, took the PDF of that, took Rick Rubin's creative book, put those both in there. And then I took a couple other creative music podcasts I found on YouTube and things like that, dumped them all in there. And then I can now have a conversation. And it changes every time you communicate with it. So on the way to the gym, sometimes I'm like, you know what? I'm like kind of struggling creatively right now. And I'll fire up that specific notebook that I made. And think of the NotebookLM as almost like each of these books you're putting in or data you're putting in is like a disk. You're loading it in there. And now I can communicate with the Ableton book, Rick Rubin's book, and like get myself maybe out of a creative rut by communicating with this podcast on my way to the gym.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's such an interesting, different way to use it than I would have even thought as far as like the relationship text. Yeah, if you're on like therapist, there's I know ChatGPT also, like they just released something that was a similar like therapist model that can help people with their personal issues.
Yeah, man. There's a lot of cool stuff. Yeah.
So much cool stuff. One thought I had that would be really sick, which would probably save me a lot of time, is if I was able to create like a podcast from a notebook in Google NotebookLM and then be able to change the 2 voices, keep the exact formatting and like what they're talking about, but just change the 2 voices. Yeah. I wouldn't know how to do that, but I was like, that could honestly be huge.
Yeah, you can. There's ways to hack NotebookLM to do that. There's like tools like Grammarly is like a thing where you can upload the audio to it and it knows how to split between the multiple speakers. And what it's made for is like if you are like, if let's say this podcast, you could put this podcast in Grammarly and then let's say you said the F word somewhere, you can actually edit that out and it'll change it. but it also separates the voices. And then what I would suggest for this use case is like separate the voices. Now Grammarly has those already separated. You don't have to edit them. You can now run those through Replay. And then let's say you did a podcast with, I don't know, Carl Sagan, someone who's dead or whatever. You could then change the NotebookLM voice that is being spoken into Carl Sagan as well.
That's crazy.
You know, like it or whatever. Wild. Yeah, insert that using Replay or something like that.
Well, yeah, I need to play with Replay. I played a lot with the weights.com. Yeah. It's like .com now, right?
Yeah, we finally got the .com. Yeah, I should probably start saying weights.com.
Yeah, I was going to say that probably was not a cheap domain. I'm sure somebody was sitting on that.
Yeah, they were definitely squatting, but luckily we're starting to get a lot of users and we're able to like keep the lights on, like you said. Like we're able to like expand this, and we're just reinvesting in the brand, reinvesting in the tools. Like we didn't have the song generation until about not even a year ago, months ago. And so now we're adding song generation. The video generation is new. Like we're going to keep updating as these tools come out. And luckily the users that are paying for subscription, we're doing it for them. We're going to keep finding all these cool things in the streets and providing it to them the best and the fastest and the easiest way of creating with this stuff.
Yeah, man, I'm super into it. That's really cool. I look forward to playing around with that more.
Yeah.
I'll drop the links in the show notes too to all these things that we're talking about.
Please.
If people want to check that out. What do you predict with music and tech? Like, what do you predict the future is going to look like in the next 5 to 10 years with all this as it relates to music producers?
What I predict is a lot of the things we don't like doing, we can use these tools to help us with. Like I said earlier, if it's like using the little chat thing in Ableton to like paste all these kick drums or whatever, like things that you might not, maybe people like pasting kick drums. That's cool. Do it. But I think the things that we don't like doing will be handled by this. And I think we're going to start to learn how to communicate with these things a little bit better. So it's just going to be second nature to like do a lot of this stuff. So if someone's listening and they've never even used ChatGPT or whatever, go on there and start to like figure it out. And the more you understand it, then you can apply it to all of these other spaces. I think the other things that a lot of us musicians don't like to do is to have to do social media posts and all of this like stuff around what it is to be an artist in 2025. I think a lot of that's going to be automated too. Like even communicating with your fans and things like that, there's going to be a form of like automation that's there, and it's going to at least take a lot of that stress off of us. Yeah, there's things called AI agents, which are kind of like the new trend right now. And that's what Cursor runs on, is an AI agent where it can just code for you. Like there's going to be ways we can apply these agents in a lot of little aspects of our lives. And that's going to be the next thing, is like, how can these agents help us in like tasks we don't want to do so we can focus on the things we like doing?
Yeah.
If you like sound designing with a modular synth, then you should just only focus on that and then have this other thing paste the kick drums or whatever it is. Insert the things you don't like doing, offsource it to tech, and then the things you like doing, double down on that. Really take the time with that modular synth and really, finesse it in a way.
Yeah, the agent thing is wild to me. Like, I forget what it's called, but OpenAI just released like a new agent that can just basically take over your computer and browse the internet for you and just like click around whatever open apps, which is insane, kind of terrifying. But like, even just like a travel agent, like for somebody on tour, if you're going on tour, like imagine an agent is just booking your flights for you. It's just doing that stuff. Like that could save a lot of time for independent artists, for people who are doing their own DIY stuff.
Insert anything. We're recording this the day after President's Day, but it was President's Day yesterday, and I needed to get a new washer and dryer, and I used the Gemini agent, and I used Grok, Gemini, and GPT's agents to comb the internet, find President's Day sales. I gave them the current washer and dryer I have, so it knew the like models that I had and what I needed to replace. So it knew the dimensions, the size, what electrical dryer, et cetera, all of that. It knew that about my dryers and washer and dryers, and then it combed the internet and it found the best options to replace them with the current President's Day deals that are out there. So not only could I find the ones that could replace them, but I could also compare them and I could find the best price. It was kind of like a way I use the current agents now, and shit's just going to get better and better.
Dude, I just got a new washer and dryer. What kind did you get?
I got the Electrolux something. I don't know. It's in the
sounds
thing.
Fancy.
I don't know. It's funny because AI is in everything now, and that's what I was noticing. It's like AI washer and dryer. I'm like, dude, come on. You just gotta turn a dial and push a button. Like I was like, I'm not gonna go there. As much as I'm into tech and shit, I just left that to the basic ones.
Just sad and lazy at that point, dude.
Yeah, dude.
If you can't hit a button, then you've got bigger problems.
Dude, yeah, you turn a dial, push a button, it makes an alarm, you move it to the dryer, turn a dial, push a button. It's like, that doesn't need to be AI. But
first world issues are the worst. Well, speaking of Flosstradamus stuff, what are the upcoming projects you have in the works that maybe you could talk about, or like got so much going on?
Yeah. I love it, man. It's like I've been said earlier, I've been doing this for 20 years. This is the 20th anniversary I've been doing this. I'm 43. It's going out and touring. I'm still doing it. Like I've got shows this weekend in Seattle and the Bay Area. And like for me, I love doing that. That's going to always be a thing. My thoughts are in this 20-year anniversary. Like I have the song with Lil Jon. I have a couple more songs coming up with people I've done music with before. This year is kind of like shining the light on what made Flosstradamus is kind of my like whole goal. Like what made Flosstradamus, whether it's releasing some mashups and things like that I started out with, or doing collabs with Lil Jon, who is someone who's been part of my career all along. Yeah. I also toured with Waka Flocka for a while. We're like trying to set up some stuff with him, just trying to like do a bunch of like the things that Floss was known for in this era. Like this 2025 is like kind of shedding light on the past, bringing it into the future, and then just releasing a bunch of different music.
Love that, dude. Yeah, I've been following this project. I don't know if it's been 20 years of following it, but for a long time. And like, I love your tunes.
Thank you.
Happy to know that you're still investing and bringing some back the OG Floss and some of these tracks. Like the other day, I was visiting home. My grandma was watching The Wheel of Fortune, and Lil Jon was on there.
No way.
And she like, that's her favorite game show. And she's like, "Who is this guy?" And I was like trying to explain Lil Jon to like my 90-year-old grandma. It was amazing.
That's okay. That just in itself sounds crazy.
Dude, it was hilarious. But yeah, anyway, dude, thanks for hanging out on the podcast, man. It's almost been to the hour. If you come to Denver, I would definitely love to say hey or whatever. I don't know if you snowboard or whatnot. But
I do.
Definitely need to hang some time if you're in my hood.
Yeah, man, I'm going to be out there. That's the one thing I should have mentioned in this. So part of the 20 years. So September is the 20-year anniversary of Floss, is like the actual date. September 5th is when it started. So we have a whole tour planned in like the later half of the year.
Nice.
And we'll be coming through Denver. So I will see you then, dude. If I don't see you on the slopes before, which is hopefully something that happens soon.
Sick, dude. Yeah, you always have a place if you ever want to come through here.
Appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, dude. Best place for people to connect with you. If they want to connect with you online, follow you.
Yeah, I check my DMs on Instagram. So if you have any weird questions on all this tech nerdery that we talked about, but yeah, you just try to search Flosstradamus. I'm sure if you misspell it, it'll autocorrect in Google. And yeah, main place to talk to me is on Instagram DMs. Main place to check me out. I'm on Twitter and or X or whatever it's called now. And
nice.
Follow me on the socials if you want.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. Like I said, everybody check out the show notes for more links to Floss and all the cool projects he's working on. I'm looking forward to playing with some of these, man. There's a lot of cool hacks and tools in here.
Yeah, bump our text thread too. I can text you some more stuff as well. And
for sure, man. Yeah, I'd be down. Happy to give any feedback too. I've got a little bit of extra time these next couple of weeks, so maybe I'll dive in.
Cool. Yeah, dude, I'll get you beta access to a bunch of stuff we got cooking up and all of that. Yeah, man.
I'm so down. Sweet, man. Yeah, we'll take it easy.
Yeah, you too, man.
Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast. Do me a huge favor if you would and hit that follow or subscribe button wherever you're listening to the podcast. If you don't hate the podcast, please leave a 5-star review. It would help me out a ton. Don't forget to check back on Tuesdays for new episodes. If you want to be the first to get new episodes and stay updated and get free new devices and sample packs and other stuff that I'll be sending out in the future, join the newsletter. Just go to liveproducersonline.com/newsletter and or check out the links in the show notes. Make sure to give this guest a follow on the socials, give them some love for spending their time. And once again, thanks for listening to the podcast. I will see you next time. Later.